All right, so welcome to my first online lesson for our notes for iReady Math. For these videos, I like to upload them to YouTube so you have a chance to copy down in your book what we did in class. So basically, these videos are to learn to hear me give the lesson like I would in the classroom and to copy down notes into your workbooks that you should have today. So we'll go over a few things here and we're going to be introducing volume and we're going to start very basically and start slowly as we work up towards learning the formula and how to do volume. For this, this is more of an in-class type thing, but what I basically do is like I could hand you a tissue box or any sort of like box and a index card or a piece of paper. And we kind of talk about the differences between both of them. The main thing that's different is that an index card or a piece of paper is 2D or two dimensional. That means it's going to be flat. So it's only going to have basically two measurements, length and width. A box is going to be three dimensional. That's going to be length and width and height. Again, 2D is length and width. There's no height to it, it's flat. And then a box is something that can actually hold something, has the three dimensions. So that's just the main thing to understand today from the warm up is that there's a difference between the two. Go ahead and open up your textbook to page 5. That's where we're going to start our notes. And you just go ahead and copy down what I'm writing as we go. Again, everything I write down here on the video is what I taught in class today. So a plane figure is a two-dimensional figure, and go ahead and write 2D over that, two-dimensional. Explain how to measure the area of the plane figure using the unit square. So here's our unit square right here, and here's our plane figure. And what you can do is go ahead and like put these little dotted lines here. What you can do is you can take one of these unit squares and you can put one here, one here, one here, and one here. You can put 4 of those on top of it and measure out that. So you could cover the plane figure with unit squares. And when you do that, when you measure it that way, you got to make sure there's no gaps between the unit squares that you lay across it, because then it's inaccurate, because then the gaps are not measured. So you want to make sure everything's nice and close together. So for this one, so this plane figure, this would be 4 units. And as simple as that, as simple as like counting and seeing what's covering there. So that's our two-dimensional measurement of the plane figure. Let's look down at question 2. Now notice this is a little different. So a solid figure is a three-dimensional figure. Let's write 3D above there. And the volume of a solid figure is the amount of space inside the figure. So basically, when you think about volume, think of a box, like any box that you have around the house or any one that you see around here. The volume is how much stuff you can put inside there. So however much it can carry. It has 3 dimensions, it has different sides to it, so it can hold things. You can put a liquid in there, you can put solids, but volume is a measurement of how much something holds. And to measure, if we're going to measure a 3D solid figure, we've got to use a unit cube like this to measure that. So to measure this over here, to measure the solid figure, we would fill the solid figure with unit cubes, just like that. And if we looked at it this way, back, actually, you know what? We wouldn't do it like that. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be the volume of this would be 4 units for cubic units. So the one up above would be 4 square units. This is 4 cubic units, and we'll get more into that later on in the next lesson on the difference between the two. And I like these lessons for math because they do kind of take their time and go over concepts pretty slowly. All right, let's look at 3. A rectangular prism is a solid figure with 6 rectangular sides or faces. So hold any box in your hand, any cube, and you count them up, and you've got 6 different sides or faces. The 2 boxes shown below are identical rectangular prisms. So we've got way 1 and we've got way 2. They're identical as far as that goes. And they all have unit cubes inside them, but if you notice, these have some gaps in between them right there. So that's the only difference between way 1 and way 2. Circle the diagram that you think shows a correct way to use unit cubes to measure the volume of the rectangular prism, and cross out the incorrect way. Well, like I'd mentioned before, if you're going to do this method and measure out the volume, you can't have any air gaps. If you have air gaps, that's unmeasured space, and your final answer is going to be inaccurate. So you got to make sure everything's packed together nice and tight. So way 2 is the proper way to measure it using the unit cubes, and this is the incorrect way. So we explain our choice. Way 1 has gaps. Again, please write this in your books if you're listening from home. Way 1 has gaps, which means more cubes fit in way 2. And let's count them up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 for here, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for way 2. So obviously, way 2 is more accurate. All right. Again, these are usually pretty short lessons. So a unit cube is said to have 1 cubic unit of volume. Cubic units are measured to measure the volume of a solid figure. What's the volume of each unit cube inside the rectangular prism you circled in problem 3? Well, each of those cubes is 1 cubic unit, and the volume of that rectangular prism, we counted them up, easy peasy, to 12 cubic units. And lastly, why do you use cubic units instead of square units to find the volume of a solid figure? Well, a solid figure is 3D. So you need a unit with 3 dimensions. And those, again, just a reminder, those 3 dimensions are length, width, and height. And don't write them out because you can abbreviate those. Length, width, and height. So that makes sense for that. Again, this is the first part or the first lesson of session 1, so we're really just going over the basics. And that's it. It was a very short one for this one. For these lessons, I do assign IXL. So one thing for IXL is make sure you sign in with Google. If you sign in with Google, you'll get credit for it. You'll be able to track that you made your progress. And if you don't, then basically I'll just have to make you do it again to show that you know how to do it. But you'll find DD 13 is called volume of rectangular prisms made of unit cubes. And when I do IXL, I make sure you only have to go to bronze medal, which is that pops up once you get 70%. And then you get full credit for it. So you'll get full credit for classwork. You'll get a 100 grade, but you only have to go to 70% in IXL to finish up your project. And for this one, it's fairly simple. You're just counting up the cubes in the whatever shape you see, and that's your volume for that shape. But get a hold of me if you have any questions. Send me a message in Schoology, and I'll be sure to get right back to you. All right, good luck.